Hello, this is Sana Carpelati, Your Quest for Self Healing, my Facebook page. Today we're going to talk about um, the, the, the whole practice of letting it go. Um, I want you to imagine for a minute um, the, the physical and the physical and non-physical things that you're holding on to in your life. So just take a second and think about that. It could be material things. It could be something that you've been struggling with emotionally. um, it can be literally anything, like a bad breakup of years ago, a divorce, a disappointment, a regret, uh, things that we did or didn't get to do, relationships that didn't go as planned, even old food on the shelves, people in our lives, things that failures, successes, even. Um, so they can cause trouble and problems. Maybe, maybe not. Keep in mind, it is your accumulation, and you decide what you attach to and what you get rid of, and also how long you hold on to it. So there's anything and everything can become emotional or physical clutter. And then we hear the mantra that everyone speaks, that everyone says to us, and it's that you got to let it go. You have to let that go. And sometimes we can drop something, like a hot potato, and other times we can't. And that's where the problem lies. So when you hear those words or you say it to yourself, you might notice like a sigh or a heaviness or a resignation, or maybe you even glaze over. But then inside your head, once that mantra kicks in, there's this whole experience, this whole inner dialogue, starts up. I should have done this. Why didn't I do that for myself? Why can't I? What's wrong with me? So we can easily become very stressed about the fact that we can't let go of something. And that can cause us to hold on even tighter, to feel bad about that maybe you don't deserve to get over something, or uh, it may be attached to a belief that you have. And we find ourselves obsessing even more and also resisting all possible options that you might have. Um, so there's an experience of the it, and it's really not so much about the it, because it's about you and how you're holding on to it. But the truth is that we really do want to quiet the inner clutter that we feel around this topic, or this it in our lives. And sometimes we don't understand all of the bigger pieces to it. Um, but the interesting thing about 12, 15 years ago, I started to notice that some of my clients would report, after doing some pretty, profound healing work, is that they would find themselves wanting to they would be cleaning out their closets and doing deep cleaning in their homes. I had one client who actually got rid of all of the furniture in his apartment down to the teaspoons and redid everything. He wanted to totally start new in his life. So, so when we relieve life tensions, there is a space that's created within us. You might have noticed. You might notice that when you make a decision about something, and you finally make the decision and you follow through it, and you just feel so free internally. Well, the same thing happens when we let go of something. Um, so uh, the question that I have is, well, what is the problem? Why can't we just let go? As I said earlier, I mean, there are some things that we can say, I'm done, I'm finished. finish with this. And we've all done that in our lives. So here's a couple of questions for you to ask yourself. So as you put your attention on this it, whatever that is for you, whether it's non-material, whether it's material or um, I'm sorry, physical or non-physical things. Um, I asked, like, what would it be like if you were still kind of attached to it 5 years from now? What would your life be like? Would you, if you think about how you're feeling related to not being able to let it go right now, imagine those that experience and the it still being held within your life 5 years from now. Just notice. So, um, so the question might be was, what value does it have to you? Um, does it keep you connected to somebody? Is this a way for you to bond with someone? Because sometimes we bond out of anger and frustration too. Um, does it keep you loyal to something or someone? Or maybe you identify with being wounded, and that's important to you for some good reason. Maybe it keeps your focus where um, there are some bigger things in your life that are more important uh, that require your attention, but this particular thing just keeps holding, it serves as a distraction. The other possibility is that there's a part of you that is very um, that believes something about yourself in relation to that is kind of tied to the experience that you have. In other words, how does it serve you? Does it serve you in some way? Maybe it gathers attention, or you get sympathy for whatever it is that you're holding on to. So it's easy for us to get lost in these experiences, not only of whatever the it is, but the experience of not being able to. So here's a couple of thoughts for you. So, what if it's true that there is a lesson for all of us in every life experience? That there is a lesson for all of us in every life experience. So I believe that we can't let go of things. Um, and it's almost as if they're patiently waiting for you to get interested and get curious about the it and what is the wisdom for you. Hi, Debbie. How are you? Welcome. Thank you. So, if it's true that there's wisdom in every life experience, so it's almost like you can't kind of flick these things away in your life because I know it's happened for me several times when I used to ignore uh, things about myself, that the lessons kept coming, the experiences kept coming towards me in bigger and more potent ways, as if to awaken me to um, to what it is that I needed to learn. So to get the wisdom, to get the teaching, to get the understanding, that is your gain. So what if you kind of saw, like, perceived it in that way, and realized that life is one big fat lesson, one after another. So for you, letting go can include things um, like terminating certain ways of thinking, or a habit, or a way that you imagine something in your mind. It can also be uh, how you stop behaving in some way, or you change your routines related to it. it basically you're changing an inner experience that ultimately changes and expands out into your life. So how the big question is, like, how do you surrender to it? How do you get the teaching? And how do you agree to something that happened? Because you can't erase something that occurred in your life, but you get to decide how you hold it. So, so sometimes, and the other piece too is sometimes we're not seeing our part of whatever this experience is, especially if the focus is external. So when we step back and allow ourselves to kind of sit with the experience, to allow it to be present, then we and sometimes doing that in silence is really very powerful for us to kind of get it, to get the feel, the visceral feel of how we're holding it. And also eventually the words come. You can also do some journaling or some tapping the EFT to process through it. um, so I want to tell you a really quick experience about this client I had a couple of years ago. And it was one of the biggest lessons and I saw the pain in his eyes as he kind of processed through this. This particular client had loaned his father $50,000. And it happened about, well, so I saw him for, so it's been probably like 7 or 8 years now since that happened. And his father told him that he was not going to ever pay him back, that it was his payback. And of course, his son was devastated, my client. And he had gotten ill several times, was full of rage and anger, and very kind of just didn't know how to put this in perspective. So, in the alchemy, in the processing work, what we discovered was, well, wait, I'm sorry, before that, I asked some of the words that he used to describe his father kind of gave me a sense that perhaps his father was a bit of a narcissist, and there's varying degrees of that. And he looked at me and he goes, "Oh my gosh, yes, he was hospitalized for an addiction. The father was, and he was diagnosed at that time as having a narcissistic personality disorder." So when I explained that to him, that this was not personal towards him, that it was his father's, it's hard to understand his father's thinking with regard to this. So, anyway, what happened was we did some deep alchemy work on this relationship with his dad. And so that he could see what it is that he needed to see in order to release this wound, and how he was carrying the fact that his father was not going to pay back the $50,000. But what he realized is that he allowed himself to be manipulated by his father. And what, if you know about narcissistic behaviors, they're very good at manipulating and strategizing to their own end. And without getting, deep into that, it's an important piece here because he also realized that he always wanted his dad's attention growing up. And he thought, he had this belief that, well, if I showed my dad that I'm successful, well, then he'll kind of start seeing me as his son and pay attention to me and so forth. Well, it didn't work out in that way because as we looked at his father's history, his father had a series of failures in his career. So he really resented his son for making more money than he did. So when he said that it was payback, he literally meant that. So we did some resolution work in the processing work that we did, and it allowed him to start distancing and to hold that experience and to also hold himself accountable and to have his needs met, in a certain way, but not through his dad. So anyway, so the whole piece here about letting go is really about, especially if there's a powerful and a very or a potent emotional overlay or an undercurrent with what it is that you're struggling with. It gets it's not something that you can let go of very easily. And so I always look at it as like they're the it, whatever that it is that it's holding on patiently for us to kind of get the message or the wisdom that we need to get. So I guess as I was thinking about this topic for tonight, I realized that all of my clients are that come here are do have trouble with something that they're struggling with in their lives, whether it's just a stress about something or a trauma or something that happened behind them in the family. And I realized that um, uh, how important it is to understand it from the perspective of if you're containing it and if you're holding it, it has value and it has a potent meaning. So that's about all I have to say on the topic for now. I mean, I could go on for a long time, but I do like to kind of keep these at a certain time frame. But I do want to kind of remind you that I do have this From Hurt to Healed retreat happening in October in Las Vegas, which I'm really excited about. It's kind of an immersive three-dimensional processing experience for everybody in the class. So it's about healing old wounds, whether it occurred in your life or even in your family's life, because some things are inherited. Hey, Debbie and Beth. Because some things are inherited and we repeat those patterns, and also that the if there's a struggle or a trauma or something that's happening that has happened behind you, um, those things kind of like search for a way to find resolution in the family system, and they can be very easily resolved. So it's going to be a small, intimate kind of boutique healing experience for everybody. And I, I haven't done a weekend retreat before, but I have done this course many times in 2, 4, and 6 weeks kind of increments. And if you go from hurt to healed.com, you can read about some of the experiences that were neutralized and totally resolved when they left. Everything from a strangulation, where a boyfriend impulsively started strangling the woman in the class, to an assault, to a rape. So those are all things that can be resolved. And sometimes you hear on the news when things happen, well, they're going to carry this the rest of their lives. But I always wonder to myself, well, how? Well, of course, when something happens in our lives, it is a part of our lives. So we get to choose. We are empowered to find our own way to hold it and to contain it and put it back on our timeline in a way that allows us to carry forward what it is that's important to us and what it is that we need to know. Because life is a reflection of who we are, and what presents itself to us is a grand opportunity to evolve ourselves, to evolve our souls, if you use that kind of language. So I'm finished. So if anybody has any questions, you're welcome to ask, and I can answer any questions that you have. And also, if you have any thoughts about the topic, that would be great. You can always respond below. But take a look at fromhurttohealed.com. I would love to see you there. We do have quite a few applicants already, so I am capping it at 16 actually. So it's in October, and for the next week, we have a price reduction, introductory price reduction of $100. So you can read all of the information on that website. So thank you so much for joining. And those of you that kind of came on late, I started right at 7, so it's about 20 minutes if you want to kind of rewind it and take a listen. So any comments or questions or thoughts that you have, I'm open. Love you all. Thank you for coming in. I really appreciate it. Bye. Now, if I can figure this out. Oh, there it is. And bye bye.